I have a photo on my phone I've never shown anyone. Not my wife, my boss, or those researchers who came asking questions. It's a secret I've kept for 14 months, buried in a drawer I don't open. What's in that picture shouldn't exist in the world of photographs. It doesn't belong in the daylight or the documented world we live in. It belongs to the other world, the one that runs parallel to ours in the same canyons. My name is Leonard Runningwater, and I'm a Navajo Nation police officer. I've worked the Chinle district for 16 years. I'm not a man who frightens easily, and I'm not one to mistake shadows for something supernatural. I was on patrol on the night of March 4th, 2022. It was the night shift on the Eastern Boundary Road, a long, unpaved stretch I've driven thousands of times. It's remote, quiet, and usually just me and the dark. Around 1:15 a.m., my headlights picked up something on the rimrock. My foot came off the gas before I even knew what I was looking at. My training kicked in, and I stopped the vehicle. It was on all fours, massive, like a large elk, but the proportions were all wrong. The joints were too long. The angles were unnatural. It was looking right at me, and its eyes caught my headlights with an intense, steady amber glow. I didn't use my radio. I knew there was no category for this, and something deep inside me told me to stay quiet. I reached for my phone and took one picture through the windshield. Then it stood up. Not like an animal, but in one fluid motion, like a man rising from his knees. It stood 9 to 11 feet tall, perfectly still, looking down at my vehicle. I sat there for 11 minutes. I didn't feel fear. I felt a strange, cold settling. It was as if the thing had decided I wasn't what it was there for. Then it just stepped back into the darkness and was gone. I still run that road. I don't look for it, but I know it's there. I haven't deleted the photo. It's a responsibility I'm still trying to understand, a silence that is the answer. I filed a report that night, but I kept it simple. I just noticed some unusual animal activity, maybe a large elk. I know how to write a report that keeps the questions away. Before I go any further, I need you to stay with me. If you've come this far, you know this isn't just another story. This is the moment to subscribe to the Phantom Archives and hit the bell. What I'm about to tell you is the part I've never shared with anyone. I'm telling it here because this channel is the only place I've found where the telling is taken seriously. Only things kill us when we go out there. Stay and like this video, not for the algorithms, but because this story deserves to be heard. The following week, I sat down with my Uncle Thomas. He's 78 and was trained in the traditional knowledge of our people. I told him everything I saw, but I didn't show him the photograph. He listened to the whole story, which took a long time, and then he was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he asked me one question. He asked if it stood before it left, or if it left on 4 legs. I told him it stood. He was quiet again. Then he spoke in Dene Bazad. He said it showed me its other face before it left. He explained that it wasn't showing me what it was, but that it knew I had seen it. He told me that the standing wasn't a threat, but an acknowledgement. It was a specific decision directed at me for a reason I'll never know. Then he looked at me and said I wasn't the first person in my family it had acknowledged. He looked at me for a long time, and then he said my grandmother's name. She died in 1997, and she never spoke about what she had seen in this desert. She lived her whole life in the shadow of these canyons, carrying that knowledge alone. I'm still on the job, and I still run that Eastern Boundary Road on the night shift. I drive past that bend every time in the same dark with the same headlights. I don't slow down, and I don't look for it, but I haven't deleted the photo. My uncle said that what has been seen cannot be unseen, and that it's a kind of responsibility. I'm still deciding what I'm responsible for. I think my grandmother's silence was both protection and instruction. In this country, silence isn't the absence of an answer. It's the answer. I keep the phone in a drawer, a place I rarely open anymore. It sits there, not forgotten, but waiting for a decision I haven't been able to make. It's a heavy thing to carry, knowing what's locked inside that digital space. That image on that screen shouldn't exist in our world. It's not gruesome or explicit, but it simply doesn't belong in the documented daylight reality we think we know. It belongs to that other, older world that runs parallel to our own. That world occupies the same canyons and mesas that my family has called home for generations. It was there long before the concept of a photograph was even imagined. It's a geography of deep history and things that don't follow our rules. It came into my life for 11 minutes on the night of March 4th, 2022. I was on the eastern boundary of the Navajo Nation, south of Chinle. I was the only one there, and I took that one single photograph. I'm Leonard Runningwater, and I've been a Navajo Nation police officer for 16 years. I grew up in many farms, in a family that's been here since before the treaties and the borders. My grandmother spoke Dene Bazad, and I understand it, which matters more than you might think. I'm not a man who scares easily. I've seen the worst of what people do to each other, and I've kept my cool through it all. But what I saw that night wasn't a stress response or a trick of the light. I know what I saw. I was on the night shift, patrolling the long, unpaved road that follows the canyon rim. It's a lonely stretch, and I've driven it thousands of times. I know every curve and every shadow like the back of my hand. Around 1:15, I hit that bend where the rim rock is closest to the road. My headlights caught something. My foot hit the brake before my brain even registered what it was. The threat response was automatic. There was a figure on the rim rock, about 60 feet away. It was on all fours, massive, like a huge elk, but the proportions were all wrong. Its arms were too long, and the joints angled in ways that didn't make sense for any animal I'd ever seen. It was looking right at me. Its eyes caught the headlights, but the amber glow was wrong. Too intense, too steady. It didn't move, not even a twitch. It was perfectly, unnervingly still, and I knew I shouldn't make a sound. I reached for my phone instead of the radio. Maybe it was just that professional instinct to document a scene. I took one single photo through the windshield, making sure the flash was disabled. The figure didn't react to the phone at all. Then, it moved. It stood up in a single fluid motion, like a man who had been kneeling. It stood fully upright on the rim rock, easily 9 to 11 feet tall. It looked down at my vehicle from that height, and it was completely, perfectly still. I felt a strange, cold settling in my chest. I sat in my vehicle for 11 minutes, just watching it. It didn't move, it didn't look away, and it didn't make a sound. It had decided I wasn't what it was there for. Then it stepped back from the rim edge. It didn't leave quickly or dramatically. It just stepped back into the darkness, and it was gone. I sat there for a few more minutes, trying to process what happened. I eventually finished my patrol and filed a report about unusual animal activity. I know how to write a report, and I know what fits in one. The following week, I sat with my Uncle Thomas. He's 78 and knows the old stories of what moves through this canyon country at night. I told him everything, but I didn't show him the photo. He listened to the whole account. Then he was quiet for a long time. Finally, he asked me one question. Did it stand before it left, or did it leave on 4 legs? I told him it stood. He told me that it showed me its other face before it left. It wasn't a threat, he said, but an acknowledgement. It knew I had seen it, and it was acknowledging me for a reason I'll never know. He looked at me for a long time and then said my grandmother's name. She had lived her whole life in these canyons and never spoke of what she saw. I finally understand the shape of her silence. I'm still on the job, running that same eastern boundary road on the night shift. Every time I hit that bend where the rim rock gets close, I feel it. I just keep driving, keeping that steadiness my people and my badge demand. I don't slow down at that spot anymore. I'm not looking for what I saw there, either. I just drive it like any other stretch of road, keeping my eyes on the path. But I haven't deleted that photo. It's still on my phone, sitting in a drawer I haven't touched in 14 months. I keep thinking about what my uncle said about responsibility. My uncle said what's been seen can't be unseen. He told me that's a kind of responsibility I'm still trying to figure out what I'm responsible for. The photo is still there, just waiting. It shows that thing on the rim rock, caught in my headlights. It's standing tall at the edge of that drop, looking right at the camera with those amber eyes. My grandmother's name was Rose Runningwater. She lived 91 years in the shadow of these canyons. She saw what runs through this desert at night, and she carried it with her. She never told me, and she never told anyone else. I've spent 14 months trying to figure it out. Was her silence meant to protect me, or was it a lesson? I think it was both. I think silence in this canyon country, in the presence of what moves through it. Silence isn't the absence of an answer. It's the answer. It's the only answer that matters when you're standing in the dark, looking at something that shouldn't exist. I'm Leonard Runningwater, and this is the photograph I do not speak about. That is the summer day. Never forget it. Never forget its smell. The smell of human flesh, more terrible than anything you have ever known. I wonder if my grandmother's silence was protection or a lesson. She lived her whole life in the shadow of these canyons. She knew some truths are just too heavy to speak aloud. I think it was both. Silence in this canyon country isn't the absence of an answer. That's the answer. I'm still on the job, patrolling the eastern boundary road at night. I come around that bend where the rim rock is closest. I don't slow down, but I feel the weight of it. I drive it with the steadiness my people and my job require. I don't look for what I saw there, but I know it's there. But I haven't deleted the photograph. I keep thinking about what my uncle said about responsibility. It's a burden I'm still trying to understand. What's been seen can't be unseen. And what can't be unseen is a kind of responsibility. I'm still deciding what I'm responsible for. The photograph is on my phone, in a drawer I haven't opened in months. In that image, there's something on a rim rock. It's standing upright at the edge of a 200-foot drop. It's looking at the camera with amber eyes. My grandmother, Rose Runningwater, lived 91 years in the shadow of those canyons. She saw what runs through this desert at night. She carried it, and she never told me, and she never told anyone. I've spent 14 months trying to understand her silence. Was it protection or instruction? I think it was both. Silence in this canyon country isn't the absence of an answer. It is the answer. I'm sitting in my patrol car, the engine idling with a low, steady hum. The darkness outside is absolute, pressing against the glass like a physical weight. I stare out at the road, knowing that the silence here is never truly empty. The radio crackled with static, a sharp sound that cut through the stillness. I reach out to adjust the dial, my fingers steady despite the cold. There's no call coming through, just the endless rhythmic pulse of the night shift. I look toward the passenger seat where my phone rests, a dark rectangle in the dim light. It feels like a dormant creature, holding a secret that I have chosen to keep buried. I don't touch it, but I can feel its presence, a heavy anchor in the quiet of the car. The road ahead stretches out, a ribbon of gravel disappearing into the void. My headlights catch the edge of the rim, illuminating the jagged rocks. Everything looks normal, yet the air feels thin, charged with a history that refuses to be forgotten. I remember the way the amber eyes looked at me, steady and unblinking. Those weren't the eyes of an animal, but something else entirely. Something that knew exactly who I was. I can still see that reflection in my mind whenever I drive this stretch of the boundary road. My grandmother never spoke of what she saw, but I know she carried the same weight I do now. She lived her life in the shadow of these canyons, keeping her silence like a sacred trust. I wonder if she ever felt the same cold settling in her bones that I feel tonight. I keep the photograph because it is a responsibility, a piece of the truth that I cannot let go of. It's not a trophy or a souvenir, but a reminder of the world that runs parallel to ours. I'm still learning what it means to be the one who remembers. The desert is vast and ancient, and it holds its secrets close to the red earth. I drive past the mesas, feeling small against the scale of the landscape. There are things in here that don't need our permission to exist, and they have been here long before we arrived. I'll keep on cruising down this road, keeping my eyes peeled and hands on the wheel. I don't look for the figure anymore, but I know it's out there, watching the world from the edge of the rim. My silence is my answer, and I will carry it as long as I have to. The headlights fade into the darkness, leaving only the vast, silent canyon behind. I'm just a man in a car driving through the night, but I know the truth of this place. Silence is not the absence of an answer. It is the answer itself. I pull the patrol car over to the side of the road. The engine ticks as it cools in the night air. My hands are resting on the wheel, but they aren't shaking. I take a long, slow breath, feeling the weight of the silence. I reach into my pocket and pull out my phone. The screen is dark and cold against my palm. I haven't looked at the image in over a year. It is a digital ghost waiting for me to decide. The desert outside is a vast, ink-black void. I stare out at the canyon rim, remembering the spot. The memory is as sharp as the night air. It cuts through the years of silence I have built. I think about my Uncle Thomas and the way he looked at me. He did not ask if I was sure or if I was tired. He just asked if it stood up before it left. He already knew the answer to the question I was afraid to ask. He told me it showed me its other face. It was an acknowledgement I was not supposed to understand. It was not a threat, but a recognition of my family. My grandmother knew it, and now I know it too. I look down at the phone again. My thumb is hovering over the screen. I could delete it and wipe the evidence away, but it is a responsibility I have to carry. The wind picks up, whistling through the canyon rocks. It sounds like a voice, or maybe the desert breathing. I keep my eyes on the road, waiting for the shift to end. Some things are better left in the dark. I put the phone back in my pocket. I shift the car into gear. The tires crunch on the gravel as I start to move. I do not look back at the rim. My grandmother's silence was not just protection. It was an instruction. She knew that some truths are too heavy to speak aloud. I'm starting to understand that now. The road stretches out before me, endless and dark. I know what I saw, and I know what it means. Silence is not the absence of an answer. In this place, it is the only answer that matters. I keep driving, the tires humming against the gravel road. The darkness outside feels heavier now, like it's pressing against the glass. I don't look at the passenger seat, but I can feel the weight of the phone in my pocket. The radio crackles with static, a sharp sound that cuts through the silence. I reach out to adjust the volume, but my hand pauses. I realize I'm waiting for a sound that isn't coming from the radio. I look at the rearview mirror, but there's nothing behind me but the empty road. The desert is vast and unforgiving, hiding secrets in every shadow. I know that what I saw is still out there, somewhere in the dark. My mind drifts back to my grandmother, Rose. She lived her whole life in this canyon country, carrying things she never spoke of. I wonder if she felt this same cold, quiet weight in her chest. I pull the car over again, just for a moment. I need to breathe. The desert silence is absolute, a physical presence that demands respect. I sit there, listening to the engine tick as it cools. I think about the photograph again. It's not just an image, it's a piece of the world I'm not supposed to see. It's a responsibility I didn't ask for, but one I can't walk away from. The wind starts to pick up, whistling through the canyon rocks. Don't you ever go out alone in the woods. I put the phone back in my pocket and look out at the dark horizon. I fire up the engine again, that sound echoing in the quiet. I got a job to do, and the night is far from over. I drive forward, leaving the memory of the rimrock behind me. Silence isn't the absence of an answer. In this place, it's the only answer that matters. I understand that now, and it's enough to keep me moving through the dark. The road stretches out before me, endless and dark. I know what I saw, and I know what it means. I continue my patrol, a silent guardian in the night. I look out at the vast desert. The mesas are just silhouettes against the stars. I feel the weight of the history in this land. My grandmother's name was Rose Runningwater. She lived 91 years in the shadow of these canyons. She saw what runs through this desert at night, and she carried it. I've spent 14 months trying to understand her silence. I think it was both protection and instruction. Silence in this canyon country isn't the absence of an answer. It's the answer. The road ahead is dark, but I know where I'm going. I'm a Navajo Nation Police officer, and I have a job to do. I reach into my pocket and feel the phone. It's still there. I haven't looked at it in 14 months, but I know it's there. The desert is quiet tonight. The wind has died down. I keep driving, the tires humming against the gravel road. I think about the amber eyes. I think about the way it stood up. It was a moment that changed everything, and yet, here I am. The canyon rim is just ahead. Something out there in the dark forest is watching you. I don't look for it. I just keep moving forward. I am Leonard Runningwater. I am 44 years old. I'm a Navajo Nation Police officer, and I know what I saw. The road stretches out before me, endless and dark. I continue my patrol, a silent guardian in the night. I carry the weight of the truth,